I I can't really ever accurately say I regret transitioning. That's why I phrase it like I realized I did it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
I cannot regret doing it because I really think that this was what it took to get me to where I am up
That's
here.
right. That's
You know what
right.
I mean?
Of course.
Maybe it was a
Totally.
little extreme, but it was what somebody like me had to go through.
Right. Hey everybody, I caught myself another one. I'm super excited. Here we go. Another awesome, cool interview. So before we move forward again, I always like to thank everybody for showing up and really supporting my channel and helping me grow it and getting these awesome interviews. I couldn't get these interviews if my channel wasn't growing and more people are seeing what we're trying to do here, which is build bridges. And also, I really want to give voice to people that don't necessarily have the same voice as the influencers or the ones who are actually talking over us on some level. It's upsetting to a lot of us because we're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not necessarily what's going on here. So with that, thanks again, and like and subscribe and do the bell thing, and I send this to your friends and family and all of that stuff. I do appreciate it very much. So with that, I have this awesome friend. He is a friend, and his name is Jake. And Jake, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll move forward.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jake, and I actually did an interview with you probably about a year ago, but I was anonymous back then because, uh, yeah, I was really angry and I was worried about all these like crazy people, doxing me and trying to get me fired because, as we've seen, they do that. So yeah, I had a mask on and
Yep.
it was muffled and you could barely hear it. But I really wanted to come back on because I feel like a lot has sort of happened with me personally last year. My
Right.
head is in a completely different space now, and
Right.
I'm just afraid of hiding. And I just feel like I mean, actually, you will actually be the first to know that this is sort of like my public declaration of where I am now with things.
Great.
Like I've talked to
Awesome.
one or two of my close friends about it, but I don't think even they know exactly where my head is. So,
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah, so I appreciate you giving me the platform
Oh
here.
my God, dude. I
So,
value your friendship. You're a great dude. You have great things to say. And that's the whole
thank
point
you.
of this channel is, you know what I mean? I think that says a lot about you starting out anonymous a year ago,
Yeah,
and where you've come to today says a lot about you and your growth. And also the fact that more of us are starting to not be scared to say things we need to say, whether it's
yeah,
good or bad, whatever that even means. We shouldn't have to be scared to say what me and
no.
you want to say, which might be an opposing opinion. That's all it is, or opposing way of living, or ideas about things. So I do
Mhm.
appreciate that you've taken the mask off. That just says a lot about your growth, and that you're willing to step up here and let's have the conversation. What's going on with you?
Well, I couldn't help but feel like the last time I interviewed with you, I would get so angry, and I don't like being angry because, like you and I were talking about before, like we're not angry people.
No,
We're not. I
no, we're
avoid
not.
conflict at all cost. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
But I would go. I found myself going online constantly and reading what people like the TRAs would say, and I just would get so enraged, like my blood would boil, and I felt like my opinions were being suppressed, and I felt like I just kept being called transphobic no matter what I tried to say, even if I was talking about my own experience. And I have always been a person that if I am feeling any sort of feeling, instead of looking to other people to blame them for my feelings, you have to look at yourself. So I was very well aware that I was angry. And I was like, why are you letting these fucking weirdos on the internet, of all things, get under your skin? So
Yes.
I was like, dude, you might need to go back into therapy. So I have been in therapy. I have done the work. Hello.
I love you, dude.
Uh,
I
but
love you,
but
dude.
here's the
Taking care of
Thank
yourself.
you, thank you. But here's the thing, though. In going back into therapy, I actually started doing what I should have done a long ass time ago, which is unpacking the shit from my childhood with
Wow.
my parents and
Wow.
my own self-esteem.
Wow. Very
And in doing
powerful.
that, I mean, I don't want to, this is just the tip of the iceberg here, but
Sure.
in doing that, I realized some things that maybe I transitioned for reasons that I thought were accurate at the time.
Okay. Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
Wait,
I
how long ago did you transition again?
8 years ago.
And can I ask your age again?
Oh, sure, I'm 46.
So you're 46. So 8 years ago,
Yeah,
you transitioned. Okay,
I
that's
did.
a long time ago. 8 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what's crazy too is that I remember when I first transitioned, I was kind of starting to hear whispers and, inklings of people talking about detransition. But I remember thinking, oh, well, it just clearly didn't work out for them. Like
Right.
they made the wrong decision. I don't know how anybody, like, I'm happy. And 30 years from now, I'm going to be like Buck Angel. And here's the thing. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't plan to detransition at this point. I just want to nip that in the bud. But it really did get me thinking about what my motives were for transitioning.
Great. Okay.
Because, not to toot my own horn here, but I'm a smart person. I'm intelligent. I've got a high IQ. I've always been intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm not a highly susceptible person.
Yeah.
I've never been one to fall for cults or religions or anything like that. So I had to ask myself, how did I get in this? How did someone like me get in this place? And here's what I'm thinking. Even though this is my own personal story,
Yes.
I know that I'm not the only one. So I know if I am experiencing this, I know that others will eventually.
No,
I know they
that's
will.
such a great, powerful statement, and it means you care. It
Yeah,
means you don't not only care about yourself, but you care about other people who might actually be going. And I will totally side with you on that. There is no doubt in my mind that there's other people in your position
mhm,
who feel
yeah,
fearful to say what you're about to say or what you are saying, who feel
yeah,
fearful to even think about. Not to say that you're detransitioning, but to even think about that, or to
right,
think about
yeah,
what were the motives. So this is so great and powerful, Jake. I
yeah.
do appreciate it. So what do
Thank
you
you.
think your motives for transition? Tell me about when you started to transition. Yeah.
I started transitioning when I was in my mid to late 30s,
Okay.
and I did it. I did it because I can say now I was probably on the verge of a midlife crisis.
Okay. Okay.
That was one of the reasons, because all of a sudden everything seemed so urgent. I was like, oh my god, you're getting older. You've just wasted like 37 years of your life being depressed and miserable and hating yourself. You gotta
Oh
you
my
gotta
God.
figure shit out now, before
Right.
it's too
Right.
late. So there was that. There was also, I hate to say it, but we were at a point in the zeitgeist of culture
Yeah.
where trans was becoming forefront. Laverne Cox was on the cover of whatever magazine, Time magazine.
That's right.
Glee had trans characters. And again, I hate to say it because I am not a susceptible person, but this is why I say all it takes is for someone to put the idea in your head,
That's right.
and your insecurities grab a hold of that idea, and the next thing you know, you think you're trans.
Oh wow, dude. You hit it on the head. You did. And I
Yeah,
see what you're saying, because I do believe a lot of these young people are being led down a false, this false path that says, we'll
yeah,
fix you. I
yeah,
just
and
got off an interview with a child who
mhm.
actually died, who died because just the same took the wrong path. Her mom, I interviewed her mom. It's going to anyway.
Yeah,
My point being is that I do think there's going to be more
I
kids,
do too.
and you're not a kid, but
Right,
the
right.
fact that
But
you're having this, the fact that
right.
you're actually having this sort of epiphany or this thought
Mhm.
process, you don't think young people are? They are for sure having this.
And this is what makes me so scared for other people, is that this is a huge thing to have to come to terms with. I mean, first of all, you've got to do the own work on yourself.
That's
And most people are not going to do that work because it's so much easier to blame other people for
right.
how you're feeling.
So true.
So they're not
Yeah.
going to do the work. But then let's say they do the work
Yeah.
and they do have these realizations. Pride gets in the way. And that's why I have been as silent as I have been for the long time, because
Okay.
I don't want to be that person that, all my, not that I think my friends and family would be like, oh, I knew it. I told you you weren't trans. But I don't want to have to hang my head and drag my tail and be like, oh, you were right. Like, once again, you know what I mean? So there's
Of
that. I
course.
think a lot of people, even if they are feeling what I'm feeling, they're still going to blame other people. And they're not going to take responsibility for their own actions.
No.
And they're going to be
No.
too proud to admit that they were wrong.
Well, we're also
And
teaching
that's,
them
and
that.
yeah, and that is going to lead to even more depression.
Oh my God.
Because I will tell you, I have really struggled these last couple of months with the realizations that I've had, and it has made me depressed, but only because I've still been trying to hide it. Because I'm so afraid to come out and be like, you guys, I was wrong, and I'm taking ownership of that.
Oh my God, dude. Wow, that's a heavy statement to make. And it's
Yeah,
such an
it's
amazing, powerful. It says a lot about you have growth. I don't
yeah.
care. I don't give a crap what people say about you or what you're doing. You are powerful, my friend, because this is
Thank you.
transition is about you. It's not about
Yeah,
your validation from all your friends, which is what I see happening, right? I mean,
yeah,
I'm going to go back to
yeah.
my transition 31 years ago. I had no
Mhm.
validation. In fact, I
Yeah,
had, you're a freak.
yeah,
By
yeah.
everybody. That's why I am solid. I am 100%. I did do the right thing. But that's why I sit with people like you, and I sit with people who might
Mhm.
be, whatever that questioning means, my friend. It doesn't, it just, you're questioning a lot of things, which says you are growing. It is not
Yeah, you
negative.
have to
It's,
question. You have to
dude,
question.
you
You
have
cannot
to.
just accept what people tell you.
Oh my God. But then
Um,
what you're saying is so powerful because you're saying you're scared to say this, which is so profound and
mhm,
so great. So you're so vulnerable right now, and that statement alone is going to resonate with some young people out there because they're
I hope
feeling the
so.
same way. They're too scared. I've talked to detransitioners. They're too scared to say it, and they keep going along with
Yeah,
the charade until they can't. Again, not saying you're detransitioning, but you're questioning things
right.
about yourself.
Yeah. Well, so that's actually what I want to get into as well, because if you don't mind, I want to talk about
Yeah.
what made me realize that I
Yes.
transitioned for the wrong reasons.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Because again, it goes back to you have got to unpack shit from your past. And that's why I also want to advocate that if you are considering transitioning, please get a real therapist that is not a fucking gender affirming therapist.
God, dude, can you believe it?
Because I'm sorry, if I went to a therapist and said I think I might be transgender, I would hope that they questioned me and pushed back every step of the way.
That's
I
right.
don't want a pat on the back and be told, "Oh, you're so brave and stunning and beautiful." Like that is so wrong. That's so wrong
Dude,
on
it's
every level.
actually indoctrination. That's
It
that's
is.
indoctrination. That is not therapy. That's like that. Who goes to therapy to say, "Oh, you're so great and beautiful"? That's not therapy, by the way.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that because we need to have more pushback on these kids. We can't just say you think you're trans, you're trans. There has to be some kind of agenda. A chat. Why would they want so many young people to be
Yeah.
trans, dude? Why?
You know what it reminds me of? When I was coming up, I had several family members and friends of mine that were females that were in abusive relationships,
Okay.
and we all knew it.
Mhm.
And I saw other friends of mine try to push back and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I saw where that got them. It created rifts. So I always, even though I fucking hated their boyfriends and husbands, I bit my tongue because I didn't want to lose them,
Yeah,
and I went along with it.
that's
And
right.
then when they eventually got out of those relationships, we talked about how good for you. You finally see it now. And that's almost what this is. Because I know that the people who have stuck with me all this time did so because they loved me. And
That's
they
right.
probably didn't agree with it, but they didn't want to lose me and they wanted to
That's right.
support me. And I will always appreciate that. But there is a tiny part of me that can't help but think, if you truly cared about me, I really wish you would have sat me down and been like, "What the fuck are you thinking?"
Yeah, no, I see it's a very difficult space to be in for all of us, right? Because
Yeah.
at that time, you wouldn't have wanted to hear that, what you
I
just
know.
said. And you
Yeah.
might have disconnected with them as friends, right? It's
Yeah.
a very mature space to be in, to be able to hear your friends uh, give you criticism, right? Because now we're
Hmm.
in a space where we're not even allowed to have critical thinking.
I
So
know.
so imagine if your friend is seeing things and they want to say, like, let's just use alcoholism, right? You're drinking too much, buddy, because I was an
Right.
alcoholic, and I'd be like, go f yourself. I'm not an alcoholic. You don't want to
Right.
hear those things. So what you're saying
Yeah.
also, but the fact that you really appreciate your friends, even though because you understand, again, maturity. You're so
Yeah.
mature.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. But,
yeah,
that's another thing too. Like I do, and I'm not knocking, detransitioners,
yeah.
obviously,
Of
because I
course.
think it takes a lot of courage to do that. But
Yeah,
I see a lot of them that are still very angry, and I understand where that anger is coming from.
that's right.
And
That's
and
right.
here's the thing, like I can't even be angry about it because as much as I hate the fact that I realize now that I had a gender affirming therapist who kind of guided me along that direction, I can't really blame her because, like you just said, I wouldn't have listened. Nobody
Wait,
could have stopped me.
you had
I
an
realize in
affirmation
hindsight now,
therapist.
but yeah, because she never questioned me ever.
Wow.
Like from
Just
like from day one, she was like, "Oh, you're so emotionally mature and intelligent. Like, I can tell that you've really figured this out."
oh my God, dude.
So yeah,
That I I can't stand it. So, I
Yeah.
also interview therapists who are against all of that stuff. And there's one therapist guy that I spoke to who's scared to even practice in the gender. He won't even do it anymore because he said, I
Yeah.
guarantee you, a lot of these therapists are going to get sued
Oh
because
yeah.
they are, dude, because they're just stamping without any. That's not therapy.
I
But
know.
on the flip side, they're being forced to do that.
Yeah.
It,
I
they
know. I
are.
know. Well, it's interesting that the therapist that I have now, that I've had for the past year,
Great.
what I find really interesting, but again, also kind of sad, is my therapist is actually an LGBTQ friendly therapist.
Okay.
So at first I was a little afraid to be with him because I thought that he would be biased. But he was actually not afraid to dig into shit in my past and help me realize, maybe this is why you've been feeling these things.
Yeah.
But then I thought that it was really interesting that when I wanted to bring up the whole detransitioning thing and my personal thoughts on where this community has gone,
Yeah.
I could tell that he was trying to be professional in listening to me, but I could tell that he didn't necessarily agree, and he didn't want to tread that line of making me feel like he thought I was transphobic.
Yeah, of
So it
course.
always kind
Because
of so it always, yeah, so it always kind of bummed me out that
yeah.
he helped get me to the threshold of realizing that I
Right.
transitioned for the wrong reasons. But
Okay.
then he didn't make me feel comfortable that we could actually talk about it.
No, 100%. That's why I won't
Yeah.
go to it. I go to therapy. God, 30 years of me going to therapy. That being said, I don't have an LGBT therapist for that actual reason. For that actual
Yeah.
reason, because I do believe that many of them have been captured, and they also are
Yeah.
scared to say things to you about that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
situation, which puts that's not therapy. When both of you are kind of treading this, like you're supposed to vomit in therapy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of vomiting, so I realized. I'm just gonna hit key points of like why I
Okay.
think I realized I transitioned for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
I did not have good parental support as a kid. My father was never in the picture. And what's so funny is that years and years have gone by, obviously. And I remember even as young as like a teenager, my friends of my parents would, or friends of my mom would be like, oh, like isn't her life going to be affected not having a dad? And my mom and I were both like, no, I'm fine, everything's great, because I convinced myself that that was normal. But it's not. You Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with like having single parents, but
Yeah, I get it.
the more support you have in your life, the better. So I already had no dad in the picture. And then my mom was completely emotionally unavailable and immature. And I realize now in hindsight, had mental health issues and probably had substance abuse issues, which I completely blinded myself to because I was in survival mode. That's the thing. I've spent my whole life convincing myself that I may have been dealt a raw deal, but that I was fine. I was just like everybody else. But you know
Yeah.
what, Buck? I wasn't fine
No.
because I hated myself.
Yeah.
And because of the weird, fucked up relationship I had with
Mhm.
my mother never taught me how to love myself for the body that I have. She
Wow.
taught me nothing about how my own body works. And I'm embarrassed to say that now. She never even taught me
Well,
how to wipe properly as a female. We
yeah.
never talked about like getting my period or anything.
Yeah.
So between that and then just the stigma that our society puts on women in general, it was stamped into my brain from an early age that being a female is a shameful thing to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So so I realize now I was clearly just trying to identify out of being a female. Because even like, we throw around these words like woman, what is a woman, blah, blah. I was in such a mindset back then that whatever woman meant, I knew that that wasn't me.
Right.
Whatever it meant, I knew that it wasn't me,
That's right.
because
Yeah.
but, and I think I talked about this on the last interview too. It actually took me going through this journey to rediscover my own body, and make peace with
Totally.
it.
That's right. Make peace with
Yeah.
it.
And
That's
so, and here's what I'm learning. We keep carelessly throwing around gender, woman, identity. Being a woman, being a female, it's not an identity. It's what you are. It's what you are. I will never escape this, no matter what I do. You
right
know what
on,
I
dude.
mean?
I
So
totally
that's
do.
why. Yeah, so that's why I say, like, there's no need to detransition because I'm still a female. I've always been a female. But here's the kicker too, Buck. We, as a society, as a culture, as a world, we have put these restrictions on what it means to be a male, a man, a female, a woman. We did that. So yes, that's where I agree that that's a social construct.
Yes.
Who says I can't be a woman that is more masculine and has a fucking beard?
Nobody. And I
Right,
don't care what they say.
right,
It's
and
your autonomy over your own
exactly. And at this
space.
point, even when it comes to like what pronouns, who fucking cares anymore? If you call me she, okay, you're right. I have a vagina. You're right.
That's right.
Correct. I'm a
That's
female.
right.
If you call me he because I act like one and I look like one, you are also correct because that.
Dude, right on.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
doesn't.
So if anybody ever says to me what pronouns you prefer, I'm going to say that's on you. If you feel the need to have to decide, you do that. But it doesn't matter to me.
Fucking brilliant.
You know what
You're
I mean?
fucking brilliant. Genius. Totally genius. I bet a lot of pressure came off of you.
Oh my God, it did. It did because here's what I'm realizing too. My whole life, the whole reason why whenever I heard the word woman and I was like, well, I'm not a woman. Oh, it's because every example of woman that I had was either hypersexualized or a mother or a lesbian or a butch dyke, because here's the thing too, like you obviously women can be masculine and butch, but most times they're lesbians, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not a lesbian.
That's right.
I have absolutely zero homosexual tendencies whatsoever. So you know what I mean? But I still want to come across as this. And I think that as a female, I should be.
It's your body and your life, and you're saying such profound things, my friend, that some young people are going to hear, which is so incredibly powerful. I have to thank you for this very much because this is what
you for letting me.
Oh my God, they need to hear this because we've gone backwards, right? We have not progressed. We have regressed to this idea that you can only be a man or a woman and you have to look a certain way and you have to be now, if that makes you happy, you go right ahead, right? But I've connected the same way you are, dude. I mean, I do live male, but I know that I'm a female. You know me, I scream from the top of my mountaintops because I don't care what people think about me. And to be trans means you are connected to your biology, period. There's no other way to be trans. So I don't care what all those other people are doing out there. They're actually not trans if they're saying they're not really female, but they want to live as a male. They're not trans.
No. And what's upsetting me too is that we are also now in a point with this trans culture where, I was thinking about this in the shower earlier. All that's happening right now is we are rebranding words.
That's right. Great.
We're rebranding words. Totally. Because guess what? My clitoris is not a penis.
That's right.
It's not. So stop calling it a penis or a micro dick or a T dick. It's not a dick. It's a clitoris.
No, that's but I mean, I get it because I make stuff for that, and it's that's all marketing and all that, and whatever. If that makes you happy to call it your T dick or whatever you're calling it, go right ahead. But don't lose reality within that space. Like you didn't grow a dick. Like you're never growing a dick. That's just not happening. And then it's dangerous. It's dangerous that those kids are playing with dangerous stuff because they're disconnecting from reality.
And the whole thing too, like we have this generation that thinks that they can just come along and just decide that things are now. Oh, well, I can rename this. I can reinstate this. No, that's not how it works. It's so Orwellian. And if they actually read 1984, they'd probably see that.
They would never do that. They don't know how to read.
Another thing too that I've been struggling with is like, what is my sexuality supposed to be now? Because if you listen to the trans community, I'm a gay man. But it actually took me living here in Palm Springs amongst gay men, a plethora of every kind of gay man, might I add, to realize more definitively than ever, I am not a gay male. Never have been. Oh God. And that's another epiphany that I had in therapy. I realized that because I did have such a traumatic childhood, I was looking for a community to escape to. And think about it, like you have the queer community who has always been shit upon. They've always been the outcasts, the fringe,
That's right.
And I related to them because I also felt like I was on the fringe. And they, because they know what it's like to be shit on, they're so welcoming and accepting.
That's
So
right.
they parented me. They gave me the love and parenting
Yes.
that I needed.
Yes.
And I convinced myself that I belonged in that community somehow. So it's almost like I was always spending my whole life thinking of ways to try to be in that community. So once I transitioned, I really thought I had it all figured out. I was like, oh well, duh, I'm really a gay man. All these people that I have been worshiping my entire life, I'm one of them. And what I actually realized in therapy is that I have actually appropriated their identity and culture. And I
Wow.
feel really sick about that now. Like in my mind,
Oh
I'm no better
God.
than Rachel Dolezal.
Oh gosh, no, please don't go there. I don't
No, but
believe
no, but
that.
no, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing though. What gay men go through, especially what they've been through historically, but even now,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is something so specific to being a
Yes.
male, and being a gay
That's right.
male.
That's
I
right.
will never know what that's like. But for me to pretend like I do and that we're the same, that is so insensitive.
Well,
That's
I
some
hear you.
insensitivity right
I hear
there.
you, and I think it takes a lot to say that, and I think gay men will actually appreciate that because they're getting pissed. They're getting
Oh
pissed
yeah,
at trans men talking the way they are, and
yeah.
I was in that world, but more for my work. It wasn't that I
Hmm.
never identified as a gay man ever. But that being said, those are like that was my work and where my stuff was going, and it
Hmm.
revolved
No,
around
I get it.
that. But
Yeah,
and I was always honest about being a female, right? If that was ever going
yeah,
to happen, I never was like I'm a man, like because no, I'm not.
right.
But I hear you, and I think that gay men need to hear this because they're getting very upset with this new
They
generation of
are,
trans
and
guys.
I understand why.
Oh my God, those are females. They are not male,
Yeah,
and they're trying to pushing themselves on gay men and
yeah,
calling them homophobic and transphobic. I'm like,
yeah.
you
It's
have
not
an
fair.
actual vagina. They're not interested
Yeah,
in you, buddy. I already
yeah,
did that stuff years ago. Trust me, I know
yeah.
how to navigate it. It's no, you don't
Well, you know what?
disrespect. Yeah,
And you know what's interesting too, and I think we even like talked about this in my last interview too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I, moving here to Palm Springs, the
yeah.
majority of the people that I do sleep with identify as gay men.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I'm noticing, I feel like a lot of them are getting into it not necessarily because they find me attractive or they find my vagina attractive,
Okay.
but because it's sinking in subconsciously for them. If I don't get on this train right now, I'm going to be looked at like the enemy, like I'm a transphobe.
Oh my
Because
God.
because Buck, I can tell who's into it and who's not.
Of
Because guess what?
course.
Your
Of
body doesn't
course.
lie. Your body doesn't lie.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that's another thing. Yeah,
That
that's another thing too. That made me realize that, to come to this conclusion,
yeah.
your body, you can't run from your own biology.
Totally, dude.
Yeah. Because
Brilliant.
let me tell you something. Now, this might be a little graphic, a little TMI for the viewers at home.
That's okay. I'm making
But
notes so I can blurb it
okay,
out. Go
okay.
on.
So my entire life, I never wanted to be pregnant or have kids or reproduce, have children. I thought pregnancy was disgusting. I was a
Okay.
little misogynistic in that sense, but I thought it was gross. I
Okay.
couldn't stand to see pregnant women. The idea of something coming out of your vagina,
Hmm.
disgusting, what have you. Everybody kept telling me, "Oh, just wait, like your biological clock will kick in," and I'd be like, "Fuck you, whatever." It took me transitioning and living as a man and being on testosterone and actually becoming comfortable with having sex finally,
Yeah.
that the more I had it, the more I realized your brain can think all it wants, but guess what? It wants to get knocked up
Oh,
because that's what it was designed
interesting.
for.
That's what it was
You
designed
can't
for.
you
Yeah,
can't
you're
fight your
right.
biology.
You can't. You can't.
You
That's a
can't fight it.
really profound statement, and it's true. It's actually true. I mean,
Yeah.
we're biologically female. Our bodies biological are made to reproduce.
Yeah.
They are, and
And
to
what
hold
yeah.
babies. Yeah.
And what's funny is, I mentioned the age that I was. Now that, I'm getting up there in age,
Yeah.
it's almost like my body is realizing, okay, bitch, we're on our last stretch now. If you're gonna get pregnant, now's the time.
Yeah. Now is
And
the
I want
time.
to and I want to make it very clear. I still don't want to have kids. Like I have zero interest in being a parent. But
Sure.
my body, every time I have sex, literally is like,
Wow.
please get pregnant. It's insane. Hormones are
Wow.
no joke. They're no joke, and that's why
Are you taking testosterone still, or did you stop?
I still am. I'm kind of I'm toying with what I want to do about that too.
Okay.
Because on the one hand, I kind of just feel like it's pointless now. Like, what's the point? But on the other hand, I do still feel like physically, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to grow more facial hair, but I think in my mind, I'm like, well, if you stay on T, you'll get a full beard. So I don't know.
Dude, it took
I don't
me
know.
20 years to grow my beard, just so you
Right? I mean,
know.
this is taking 8 years. It's yeah.
It's a real
So
thing.
yeah. So I mean, so yeah. On the one hand, I'm like, well, you've made it this far, you might as well keep going. But on the other hand, you know, I'm like, maybe you should quit now before your body starts rejecting this, and you start having like real health issues.
Which will come.
So I don't know.
Because you know I had health issues.
I
It will
know.
come. And
I know.
of course, nobody wants to talk about the
No.
long-term effects of this to our bodies, and then no one wants to talk about the psychological effects.
I know.
Because
I know.
let's talk about that. Do you feel like you think differently now that you live male than you did as a female, or not?
Well, here's the magic feather in the cap. Okay. When I first started taking the testosterone, I was convinced that it did make a difference hormonally. I was like, oh, I think more like a man now. It's got to be the hormones. But you know what I think it actually was? I think that the more I felt comfortable with being able to move around in the world in a way that I felt comfortable with, it gave me more confidence.
There you go. That's
I think that's what it was.
That's what happened. That's how I think about myself too. It just gave me the confidence to feel more comfortable visually.
Yes. Because everything I'm talking about right now, I mean, not literally everything, but just this confidence that I do seem to have right now, I always thought that way, but I just never felt like I could actually present that in person. Because again, as women, we're told don't make waves, don't push back, keep the peace.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So even though like I would think things were batshit crazy and I would have my opinions, I would keep my mouth shut.
Because females are told
they're supposed to be submissive. Yeah,
they're supposed to be submissive. And also, if you look at trans men, they still have that sort of way of being. Sure. You can't get rid, because if you look at what's happening in the trans, I use quotes, very big quotes, trans community, it's who's dominating the conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Trans
women. I know. Mm-hmm. And who's the majority of people that are transitioning?
Little girls. There you go, which is totally insane, dude. But the trans women are the ones who are pushing all of this.
Oh,
yeah. Are the ones who overspeak us. They are biological males. And you can see the difference between us and them, the way that they come and just dominate and push. Very male energy. You can, and also then we're just kind of submissively just like, okay, okay. Whatever you want. We'll just be there. You can't get rid of biology. You can literally say, so this is why. So I want to say this. This is why I believe that they want to transition kids, because they want to not have them act or have this ability to have this thought process like you and I do, because we lived as women for a lot of our lives. But I don't think that they can, because it's nurture versus nature. And if everyone knows the story about Dr. Money and the twins and how he tried to do that and it didn't work and those kids killed themselves, it's a horrifying story. So that's why I think they're trying to transition young people to try to mold them into a way that what me and you are, won't happen. They won't be connected to their biology.
No, not at all. Well, okay, I really try to steer clear of like conspiracy theories, but I will say that the path that we're on with this community, I keep hearing people talk about transhumanism. I mean, come on.
God, dude, come on.
I mean, disconnecting ourselves from our bodies. I mean, come on.
You think? No, that's not a conspiracy theory, by the way. That's factual. It's factual that they're transitioning children. It's factual that they're trying to make transhumanism, then neo-pronouns. They're giving kids all these opportunities to sort of mold and be accept themselves. Do you notice that? They're not saying, but wait a minute, kiddo, you're a girl who's going to go through puberty and it's not a big deal. They're not saying any of that. They're not encouraging these kids to just flatline it. Just be okay.
You know what I keep thinking about, like, whenever we talk about the kids, and and here's the thing too, like, anybody who knows me would actually laugh to hear me like being worried about the kids, because like I said, I've always been but what I keep coming back to is when I hear about these kids being told that if they think something is different than the norm, then they must be something else or that something's wrong with them. I
Yes.
just keep coming back to, and this might be so simplistic, but I keep coming back to Mr. Rogers. How
Wow. Yeah.
how every day he would just encourage us all to look at ourselves in the mirror and realize that we are absolutely perfect the way we
We
are.
are.
Even like when I think about being a little girl, if somebody had said to me, it's okay that you are more like you're not a proper little lady and that
Yeah.
you actually like how it looks having body hair.
That's right.
If somebody had said to me, that's okay. You can be a little girl, that you can be a woman, a girl that loves her body hair and is very masculine and boyish, but you still are attracted to men. That would have blown my mind. But that was never presented to me. That
Well,
was never
yeah,
presented as
but
an
it
option.
was. But no, of course not. It wasn't presented to me
Right.
either. But it started to be presented. By the way, it started to be that a boy could have long hair and a girl could have short. My kiddo has long hair,
Yeah.
dude. He's a dude. There's no other way around it. And sometimes when he gets called a girl, he freaks out. He's like,
Right.
they're calling me. I'm like, dude, it's because you have
Yeah.
long hair. And that. But my point being is, we used to started to teach people that it's
Right.
okay to not be
Right. But
feminine.
then it got like turned around
It
somewhere
got
again.
nailed, dude. It
It
literally
did.
regressed back to, if your child
Yeah.
wants to wear a dress, they must be trans. It's absurd.
Or what even kills me too, and viewers who are non-binary, don't come for me, but this is why I can't get on board with the non-binary thing either. Like, why, like, you are not some special magical unicorn that has your own unique gender. Like, you're still either a male or female, and there's
That's
a
right.
wide array of different ways to be a male or a female. And on any given day, all of us feel like more or less than the other. So like it doesn't matter. You're not doing anything new or unique here.
Nope, it's always been there. We've had androgynous, we've had genderqueer,
Yeah.
fine. And non-binary is not trans. I say it all the time. Stop lumping
No,
up
it's not.
yourself
It's
into
not.
trans. This is a choice. Me and him didn't. Well, however you feel that, but I feel like I didn't have a choice to do this. But that being said, now because anyone can be non-binary, dude. All
Right.
you do is just say I'm
Right.
non-binary. You don't go through any
Right.
system. You don't.
No.
That's why I don't know this whole the non-binary thing just feels like a fad. Just like
I hope it is.
trans.
I really hope it is.
And I don't care as long as you're not doing medicalization, but
Right.
you cannot self-ID as trans. You just
No,
cannot do that. That
you
is
can't.
not real. That is, so we're
No.
handing these young generation things that to make them feel a part of, I think, and to also give them this sort of space to feel lesser than, or to feel a part of a part of a what do we call it, marginalized or
Mhm.
a community, because everyone wants to feel that they have to fight for something on some
Right.
level.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, and I think too, especially white people, and I know we talked about this last interview.
Yep.
White people are enemy number one now, and
Wow.
they want to get in on the oppression Olympics. They've got to find a way to still maintain the top of the pyramid.
That's a great
They
point, and
absolutely
I
do.
think that's why a lot of straight people are saying they're queer. Did you notice that?
Don't even. Oh my
It's
God! Don't even get me
shocking.
started on that.
I'm like, no, you're not queer unless you have same-sex attraction or sex with somebody. You're not queer. Queer is gay.
No.
Like, what?
No.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, that's why like I always say, how like the joke is like when it comes to the oppression Olympics, like we know like who is actually at the bottom of the barrel.
That's right.
That's why like I can never take actual credence to like a white trans man,
That's right.
because I'm like, dude, you have so much privilege happening right now.
Dude,
I don't want to hear
I
anything.
have it all.
I don't want to hear anything.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
do too. Yeah,
have it all.
that's this whole thing, trans rights or human rights. What rights don't you have right now?
No, they're
What you are
shit.
actually asking for are special privileges, because
There
you
you-
already have all the rights. You already have all the rights.
Oh my God, dude, that's such a great statement.
And if you don't, and if you think that you don't, you're doing something wrong.
Or they don't care, or they're not
Yeah.
really looking, or they're just pretending, like they all are. They're grifters, and
I
they're
know.
pretending that they have, everybody hates us. I'm like, man, go live 30 years ago. Go try transitioning 30 years ago. I'll tell you some stories about how
Yeah.
difficult. You literally have insurance. You have Planned Parenthood. You can go on the internet and get your testosterone. You can literally go have top surgery in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on and on. What are you all crying about? Nobody hates us. They hate us because you're saying bad, nasty
Yeah.
things about them, right?
and also because they're asking for special privileges. Because I was thinking about this in the shower earlier today too. I've heard this argument before in the past, and before I, railed against it, but now I think I agree. I don't think that gender affirming therapies should be covered under insurance because it's cosmetic. Because guess what? If you are going to allow top surgery to be covered by insurance, where they cut your tits off, then I want to see every woman that wants breast implants have it covered.
That's right. It's the same thing.
Yeah. If I see a trans woman that gets her facial feminization surgery covered, then I want to see a cis woman who wants to get plastic surgery. I want to see that covered.
Well, also, here's why I'm going to say that, because now these people are not getting any diagnoses. They're just going, I'm trans. So that is on some level an elective surgery. I fought for insurance companies to pay for our surgeries for people who go through the system, who actually have gender dysphoria, who will not be part of this situation. And that's very small and few. The people who are using the insurance companies they're fraudulent. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to get taken away, dude, because they're abusing the system. They're literally abusing the system we tried to build for us who actually really need to transition and have real gender dysphoria. You can't self-ID into gender dysphoria. It doesn't work that way. And no insurance company is going to cover that, because how is that a medical thing? They're abusing it, dude. They're abusing everything that we've put out there so that people can function and walk the world. So it's a shame, because everything is going to regress back for everything we have today. It's not difficult to live as a trans person in the United States of America. That is a crock of shit, dude. It's not. It's just not. I don't care what everybody's bending over backwards for trans people now. It's crazy.
That's something that actually makes me feel really uncomfortable now, as somebody who is, living as a trans person still. I hate when I walk into a situation or when I'm meeting people for the first time, and right off the bat, they start treating me, whether they realize they are or not, like I am some kind of like delicate national treasure that needs to be revered and praised. I'm like, I'm an asshole just like you probably are. Like I'm human, just like you are. I am not some endangered species. Let's come on.
No, but that's because they've been programmed now to think like that. I can tell you 10 years ago, nobody treated me like that. They were just like, hey, dude, right on. Like, that's what I wanted, right? That's what we wanted to just mold. And so now what's going to happen with you, or where are you at? You're just sort of floating.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I guess I'm still trying to figure out if I want to continue with the hormones. But in terms of how I identify, I'm not detransitioning. I'm not, I'm a proud woman, hear me roar. But at the same time, I'm not ashamed or embarrassed of it anymore either. Like, I can own it. So I guess in a sense, you could think of me as sort of, if you had to, gender fluid or non-binary, but I don't need those labels.
That's right.
I'm still, you know what I mean? Like, I clearly feel more comfortable in my mind looking the way that I do and presenting that way, but I am under no delusion that I am a man.
That's so good, dude.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's how I live my life.
However anybody else wants to see me, that's their business. If you look at me and you see me as a bearded lady, that's correct. If you look at me and see me as a chubby, gay bear with a voice like Ross Matthews, that's correct too, in a sense. So
in a sense.
it doesn't matter. Well, whatever you think of me is your business.
Wow, dude, that's huge. I mean? That is actually, dude, you are in the next level. Just so you know, that's the next level. The fact, when I learned how to accept the fact that I'm a biological female, everything else went out the door. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care. I know how I walk the world. I know what's going on here. I want people to see me as the man. It works. I walk that way. It's not a big deal. If someone, that's why when I say, call me a she, like, I care. It means that's what we're not teaching this young generation, to sort of be so mad if someone doesn't get your neo Z-Zem Zer. I'm like, but how would anyone know you're a Z-Zem Zer? Like, it doesn't even exist. It's not real. Like,
I know
the absurdity of it all. But where you're at is huge.
Well, can I say though, I was just going to say, like, thank you for acknowledging that it's huge, but it's also, if I can be real, lonely, because not a lot of people are here yet with
Well,
these realizations.
and I hear you, dude. It's why I
Yeah,
don't
and so
travel.
that's why getting to be in touch with you again, I can tell you that's going to do wonders for my soul right now.
That
So
I
thank
care
you.
about you.
Yeah,
You know that I've
yeah,
always had that caring for you because I think you're a real person who cares about
thank
not
you,
only themselves but you care about our community. And by stepping up and first off by working on yourself, going through that stuff, and then coming back and saying, "Hey, Buck, do you think we could do a new interview?" Just says a lot about you because now
thank
people are
you.
going to see that growth in you. And that's such an important part of
Yeah,
what I'm trying to get out there. You know, we're talking about 16, 17-year-olds who are saying they're trans and they know exactly who they are, and then we're talking to a 46-year-old here who transitioned 8 years ago who says, "Hey, but wait a minute, that's actually this is what's happening." And that's why
I
people
know.
need to see these these 17-year-olds are going to change their mind in 5 years.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you know, and you keep talking about growth. Growth is you have to keep working on yourself. I think so many people
Forever.
think they think that once you transition that you're fixed, that it's the answer to everything.
Nope.
But I will tell you, I probably had just as much, if not more, depression and bad thoughts after I transitioned.
Interesting.
Only I had the foresight not to blame other people for it. Like I knew like you
Yes.
still need to do some deep digging. But that's the thing. Like you know, you have all these trans people now that are still really depressed and they want to be
Yeah.
and you know, they're like, well, can you blame me? Because look at the world. The world hates us. There's a trans genocide. There's no trans genocide. The world doesn't hate you. They probably because you're making everything about yourself,
There
but
you
they
go.
don't hate you. They want you to love yourself
That's right.
and be better.
That's right. That's so great. They
And
don't hate
they
us.
want you to not infringe upon their own identities in the process.
You just said it, everything I try to say every day. It's like if you want people to respect you, you've got to give respect. It's not a one-way
Yeah.
street, friends. And also we can walk on the other side of the street. We don't have to walk on the same side of the street as
Right.
people. And like I
Right.
don't and but you're so worried about how other people perceive you, or you're so worried about
Mhm.
being marginalized. You're so it's all fake. It's smoke and
It is.
mirrors because they're not being taught what you are saying, which is you've got to take care of yourself.
You
It's
know,
all comes down to you, all of
yeah.
it.
You know, another thing I want to talk about too, real quick, is and I hope this doesn't come to bite me in the ass because I know obviously there are real examples of when bad things happen, but I like to live my life by calling the bluff.
Oh.
And I think you already know where I'm going with this because you and I before we started filming, we're talking about how like you know we always say if you have a problem with me, come for me, show up on my doorstep. We'll duke it out, talk it out. Come for me then,
Yep.
because I have spent my entire life being told, well, this will happen if you do this or you don't do this, or this person's going to come after you, or the government's going to come after you, or this bad things are going to happen. But Buck, I can honestly tell you, I'm 46 years old. I have done so many things where I haven't given in to what they say you're supposed to do or not do. And guess what? Nothing happened. I'm fine.
That's
I'm fine.
right. That's called lived experience and saying,
Yeah.
nope, sorry, that actually isn't real. Also,
Yeah.
when you transitioned 8 years ago, the internet was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Was all the apps and all that nonsense like Instagram and
Oh,
Facebook?
yeah. It was all still there.
So tell me, were you
Yeah.
part of that space? Were you like
I,
hanging out with other trans guys and
oh, God, no. Well, no,
okay.
I feel bad that I just had that like
No,
really
because I
visceral
didn't either.
reaction.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because well, in the very beginning, when I was like a little baby tranny, I made the effort to try to befriend other trans men,
Okay.
but all across the board, I kept noticing a common behavior that I didn't like, which was blaming other people, anger, not willing to look at themselves. And I just knew that those weren't the kind of people in general that I like to associate with. Didn't matter if they were trans or not. So I just decided those people were not for me. And for a while, I kept trying to be open, but all across the board, I just saw them like on the whole, they all seem to have a chip on their shoulder. And I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of a community where people are having conversations and accepting differences.
Right on, dude. Right on. That's
Yeah,
when I say I'm not. That's not. So when people say you're ruining our community or whatever, what community?
you're not.
I'm not part of that
No,
community. I'm not part of the
no.
trans community in any way, shape, or form. That's not a community. My community is full of loving people, people who
Yeah,
like you who want to have dialogue. We might have differences, but we don't hate each other. I mean, that's community to me.
I've heard you say this before. I've seen you tweet it before. We even talked about it before last time. I really like that you said that trans is not my identity. It's something that I did to become who I am today.
That's
Because
right.
and I feel that way too, because I actually do kind of bristle a little bit when someone is like, "Oh, you're trans. You identify as trans." Well, I mean, I guess if we have to get into the semantics of it, but no, like it's not my
Trans is what
identity.
you do. It's not what
Yes,
you are.
yes,
We
exactly.
have a
Just,
we
yes,
have a mental disorder that makes us feel whatever you want to call it.
right,
It's okay if you're not
right,
into that space, but it's something going on here.
right.
It's the fact that these. That's how I'm telling you. I can tell you the whole thing is false and an agenda because nobody used to transition to be trans. That's not why you're
Right.
transitioning. You transition to be either a boy or a girl or whatever that's. And so now this new trans identity thing is an ideology. They've created an
It
ideology
absolutely is.
around trans.
It
And
absolutely is.
yeah,
And it really blows my mind how more people are not starting to see the parallels between, and I hate
yeah,
using these words, but cults, religions. Like, how can you not realize that this is not an ideology? It is. It
but
absolutely
more
is.
and more people are seeing it because me
I
and you
hope
are
so.
speaking up.
I
No,
hope
because
so.
people like you and me are saying, hey, wait a minute here. This is the reason why you transition. And because nobody was standing up to this before. And that's why it got out of control, dude. Even I take full responsibility. I didn't touch it for a long time because I was like, I'm not sure if I even want to dip my toe because you dip your toe in it and they just come at you. So I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared to deal with the anger of the community until I started to
Yeah.
see detransitioners. That was the thing that turned my mind. I'm like, I'm an idiot if I don't start, and I'm not a good elder in this community on some level if I don't say, hey, wait a minute here. You
Yeah.
guys are messing with 10-year-olds? What?
Yeah.
When did you ever see children involved in transitioning? Dude, I'm telling you, I've been around for a
I
long,
know.
never were kids part of transitioning. It's not a space for kids.
And I think I read somewhere once that statistically, if they were transitioning younger, it was mostly little boys that were transitioning.
Before,
And yeah,
not now. It's all
yeah,
girls. It's
I
all
know.
girls
I
who
wanted I
have
wanted to
trauma.
say I know, yeah, that's
That's right.
absolutely what it is. They're
That's right.
trying to identify out of their
Out of their
own
trauma.
biology and their trauma. Yeah. But I want to tell you also what I really appreciate about you, Buck, and I think that this is essential to growth for anybody. Is I love the fact that you just said a few seconds ago, you were part of that whole like zeitgeist in the
Yeah,
beginning of, perpetuating, trans, you were like, I'm a man with a vagina. You
totally.
realize now you're not a man with a vagina. I
That's
love the
right.
fact that you can say, I've been at this for 30 years and I realize some of the missteps that I took, but I want to correct it now.
That's right.
Because
Thank you, my friend, for
you
saying
you
that.
have you have to have the humility to realize when you were wrong.
I was wrong.
You have to. Yeah.
Again, that was in my pornography, right? So I
Right.
really, it was marketing, it was all this, but I think it did a little damage. And so that's
Yeah.
why I step up today because I'm a believer of growth. You know that? Me and you are talking about that right now.
Yeah.
Not only that, I'm a believer of making mistakes and I'm a believer of
Yeah.
saying, I made a mistake. Okay. But
Yeah.
this community won't let you do that, by the
No.
way. You're not allowed to make a
Absolutely
mistake.
not.
You're not allowed to change your mind. I always say, I was actually for puberty blockers, Jake. I was. I was
Yeah.
actually
I believe
totally
it.
cool
Yeah.
with it. And I was like, this is awesome. What a great idea. And then I was like, because people are like, dude, read this. And I'm like, maybe I changed my
Yeah.
mind. So people will come to me today and say, well, Buck, you used to be okay. I said, that's the key word. Used to are words.
Yeah.
Used to be. I'm not
Well,
anymore.
and that's why cancel culture is so dangerous
Oh
too,
my God, man.
because because it's one thing if you have somebody right now who's blatantly racist or homophobic or whatever, but let's say you have somebody unearthed a tweet from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
This person clearly is not the same person, but now
No.
you have a bandwagon people that are ready to cancel their career and their livelihood
So
over some
true.
stupid thing that they thought 15 years ago.
15 years ago. They try to they dig up stuff on
Yeah.
me, dude, from 10 or so. I'm like, yeah, I did say that 10 years ago. I would never
Yeah.
say that now. So I did learn from my mistake and I moved on. Why are you digging up stuff? And then they can only dig up stuff from 10 years ago. I'm like, why don't you look for something now? Go on, say something now. Oh, well, I'm like, you guys are so insane. But this
I
is
would.
so great, dude, to actually be putting that out there because I want the world to
Yeah.
see that there are guys like Jake here who are so solid in understanding what transition is and coming. You are growing. This is
Yeah.
This is growth in your transition. It is not, you are not regressing. You are progressing in your
Yeah.
transition because you're starting to understand what it actually means to transition. You can never change your sex ever.
No.
You
No.
didn't change your sex. You changed your appearance.
No. Can I say also, because again, I really try to mull over like what I wanted to do with this now that
Yes.
I am
Yes.
where I am.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I was like, do you want to attempt to go back to living as a female, like
Mhm.
grow your hair out, dress more femininely, whatever, all the bells and whistles? Clearly, no. But at the same time, I can't really ever accurately say I regret transitioning. That's why I phrase it like I realized I did it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
I cannot regret doing it because I really think that this was what it took to get me to where I am up
That's
here.
right. That's
You know what I mean?
right. Of course.
Maybe it was a little extreme, but it was what somebody like me had to go through.
Right.
And what was I going to say? I had it and then
That's
I lost it
okay.
in my brain
It's a
here.
lot. It's a lot.
It is, yeah.
You are.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't like to think in terms of regret or what could have been, but there is also a small part of me that thinks what it would have been like to still have the body that I used to have
Okay.
and everything that I did have going for me that I couldn't appreciate before, but with the love and the confidence that I have now.
Wow.
Like, who would she have been?
Wow.
So I do mourn a little bit for her because who knows? Who knows what
I
she
know.
could have been.
I hear you,
But
friend.
here's the thing though, I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of Jennifer anymore. I'm not ashamed of Jennifer. And I actually feel like I want to cry a little bit saying
I do. I
that
want to cry
because
with you. I do. I'm going to cry with you.
I hated her for so long. I hated her. I hated her. And now I just want to hug her and be like, I'm so sorry that I didn't appreciate you or give you the help that you needed.
Yeah.
Because you deserved help and you deserved love.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I am with that.
It's beautiful. And, I talk
Thank
about
you.
it all the time, connecting to Laura. And, Laura made Buck. If it wasn't for
Yeah.
her, and I think that's kind of where you're at, my friend. That, you can't fix things that are in the past. You can't do
Right.
that. But what you can do is take the past to the future. And by
Yeah.
connecting to Jennifer, is that her name?
Yeah.
So connecting to Jennifer, Jake, connecting to Jennifer is such an incredibly powerful. You will be a better human, not man, not woman. You will be a better human because Jennifer did struggle. Clearly, Jennifer struggled because you had to become Jake to love Jennifer. And it's such a dude, you are in such an amazing space right now. And and to be so vulnerable in front of people is also a gift, just so you know.
It's such a weight off my chest too. So thank you to the viewers for watching.
They
love
love
me or
you,
hate
dude.
me. I don't care either way.
They
All
don't
opinions
hate
are
you.
welcome.
They don't hate you. They love when people like you come up and are vulnerable and show the world that this is a path that is individual for all of us. We're not the same.
Right.
The one thing I want to say about what you just said that is so powerful and that I hope young people hear, listen to Jake. He didn't dead name his past. He said,
No.
I wish that I could have loved Jennifer the way I love myself now. And that is why we don't want young people to think at 17 they're not really women. It's crazy. But I do think you needed to take this path. I am a big believer of that, my friend. It doesn't mean you can't connect to Jennifer in any way.
Right.
Perform.
Well, I was actually just thinking about while you were talking. I remember the beginning of my transition. I would be very upset when people, still accidentally used my old name or female pronouns because I was drinking that Kool-Aid of like, you're disrespecting me, But now it doesn't matter because guess what? I realize I'm both and I can be both. I can be both and I have a vagina, so that means I'm a female.
Oh my God, dude, you're awesome. No, it's honestly, I so value this conversation, and I think it's going to help so many young people see that you don't have to medically transition. You don't have to you have to go to therapy. That's what you have to do.
Yes, therapy. And Buck, I fought against therapy for my whole adult life because I was like, well, first of all, I thought, well, I'm not as fucked up as other people. Like, I'm not seeing things or hearing things or delusional or want to kill people, But even then, once I did recognize, okay, well, maybe you do have some issues. Even then, I thought, well, I'm smart enough to figure this out. Like, I can read self-help books. I can watch Dr. Phil. I can do this on my own. No, you can't. You
You can't. Oh my God, dude. But that's the problem, is that they're telling these kids that. And they're telling these kids that you just need to be affirmed and go to Planned Parenthood. And in 20 minutes, they're going to get testosterone. They're acting like testosterone is nothing.
Can I talk to you about Planned Parenthood real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so I go to for my health services out here. They're great. They help me with pretty much almost everything, but they're not really equipped for gynecological exams. So they kept trying to refer me to gynecologists around Palm Springs. For whatever reason, it has been so hard to find one out here that takes my insurance, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I took it upon myself to go to Planned Parenthood. Never been to Planned Parenthood before, or like as a female, Oh, I mean, I am a female, but you know what I mean. Before I transitioned,
yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how I think that Planned Parenthood has shifted over where it was from like when we were younger and coming up.
Oh, totally.
Because before it really was about women's health.
It was.
And now it's become more about trans. Because even though I went to this Planned Parenthood appointment for something that was clearly gynecological,
female,
they kept asking, oh, well, do you need help with your hormones? What are you doing for your hormone care? Asking me all these trans questions. And I'm like, dude, I'm just here for my vagina. Like,
wow.
all of that other stuff I'm taken care of, but thank you. Wow. But yeah, so it's almost like they're rebranding themselves now to become about
I
trans.
say it all the time.
Because it's the money. It's the money.
They literally rebrand. They're not about abortion anymore, or female reproductive. That's what I used to give money to. I won't touch them anymore. They literally rebranded themselves. They saw money, dude. That stuff wasn't making lucrative money. They saw lucrative. The mom I just interviewed who's killing herself. I don't know if it's an accident or not. But that being said, a female to male trans person. Anyway, long story short, she went to Planned Parenthood in 20 minutes, and she said the mom went in her room and she had stacked like bottles of testosterone, because she would just go back to Planned Parenthood and say, I need a new bottle. And she had like,
that is it's so dangerous and irresponsible.
I hate Planned Parenthood.
And there's other companies too. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but
FOLX, folks.
There's another one. There's another one. I can't remember the name, but I knew somebody back in Pennsylvania when I lived there, a man who decided that he was a woman. I actually think he's actually just a cross-dresser, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. But he knew that if he went to therapy back then, that he wouldn't have gotten, what he needed, or that it would take too long. So he found this company that he didn't even have to see anybody in person. They literally just gave him a prescription.
I know.
For estrogen.
I know. It's insane.
And I even remember trying to tell him, you don't think that that's a little suspect, or like that doesn't sit right for you? And then he accused me of being transphobic.
I love it, dude. It's so good. They're going to get nailed. This isn't going to last, dude. That's a controlled substance. These people are being disingenuous. They're like literally throwing out, it's like we have rules for everything else. It's like we have no rules for trans now. Trans is like the Wild West. You can do anything you want. You can get your tits cut off. You can get testosterone. You don't.
Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. I saw a tweet this morning, and I wish I had thought to think who did it so I could give them credit. But there was like a debate going on, and somebody was like, well, what's a woman? What does that mean? Define woman. And the person turned it around on them, and they're like, no, the question is, what is trans? Define trans.
Oh, God, dude. That is actually powerful.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Oh, I'm writing that down because I'm using that.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we're going to end up finishing here because we did an hour, and I think I would love to bring you back on again, dude. I mean, wow.
I could talk about this all day.
Amazing. No, you really are amazing and beautiful and awesome and powerful. And I see the growth in you is so incredible. And you took care of yourself. That's what I want everybody out there to see. This is about you. If your transition feels off or wrong, you should slow down and figure out what's going on here, because Jake just said it. He didn't really give Jennifer a time, or doesn't understand a lot of things, and didn't really even go through real therapy. As far, it's like so gross, dude, the way they're pushing people in this. So I appreciate you a lot, Jake. You're amazing and awesome and powerful, and just these are the people these are my community, by the way, everybody. These are the people that I feel connected to. And so leave Jake lots of beautiful love, because you guys always do that for me. Also, if Jake wants, I'll put some of your social media, or if you want people to be able to reach out to you. And with that, I'll see. Remember, like, subscribe, do all that. Please give this to people who need to see it. And I'll see you all on Wednesday on the live. So thanks so much again for joining us.